I can't
All
wait
right.
to do our duet.
We were exactly. We are live and completely unrehearsed and ready to go. And the world is seeing us now. So I am here, everyone. I'm here with the one, the only Donnie Tuttle. And if you want to be energized, if you want to be positive, this is the guy. Whoop, there we go. This is the guy. This is the reverse. This is the guy you want to talk to because, I mean, Donnie is a man on a mission to keep everybody happy. And I mean, the stuff you've been doing, and I've been following you. I mean, just a quick rundown for some folks that don't know. You guys basically sold your house and decided you wanted to travel the country and just go Airbnb and go around and work and improve people's lives because the company you work with, the tools you have for professional development and everything that you have are amazing. And so, and you just decided that we're going to change our lifestyle and just go for it. And I mean, how did that even go? And this is pre-COVID. So now, you know, living remote is kind of a style now. And you were kind of ahead of the game there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, we were COVID when COVID wasn't cool. There's no question. And to frame that, Joe Hancock, we did this. And by the way, thanks for having me on. It was really cool that you thought of me. So thank you for that.
You're awesome.
We did this with 8 kids, Joe Hancock. We left. We became intentionally homeless for 3 years with 8 children. And so like I'm hearing you share some workspace with the younglings there, and so like that's a part of everyone's life now. Well, that was me. That was me. I was trying to grow a business at that point, and so imagine doing that, but then you go to a new place every 3 months, and the adventure was wonderful in each of these places. But I went cross-eyed for it took me about 7 months to try to figure out how to do my business. But finally it clicked. Finally, I was able to kind of sell anywhere. But yeah, so we are very familiar with this. That, like, as a matter of fact, we haven't gone back. So we've been COVID for 4.5 years now, and it's the perfect work-life blend for us.
It's amazing. 8 kids on the road. You're my hero. And I'm telling you, because I always wanted 10 kids. And my wife's told me I'm insane. There's no way. You're not doing it. 2 is it. And so I mean, 8 kids on the road and 3 months in each spot, growing a business. I mean, that is awesome. That's amazing. And how did it work? Has the end result has been coming now so far?
So the end result, or how did it work?
Or how did it work? I guess we could say where you're at now after, I mean, you've been going along. Now you've kind of landed in the spot. Like you were saying, you've kind of landed in St. Augustine, and then you're looking at doing the RV route next.
Yes.
So you're kind of evolving a little bit. And so like, as you've come along, the business is growing. You've got, I don't even know how many podcasts you got going now, because I mean you've got so many things going.
I have to have one per kid. I was just
there you go. So you have a lot going on, and so it's pretty amazing how you've embraced this mobile lifestyle and really shown a lot of people how you can grow a business and be able to still live and have a quality of life, which I like in my business. I'm able to be remote too. I love being remote in the digital age and be able to do everything. I can't, go to a playground and still be able to get a loan done for somebody,
Right.
And it's the amazing world we live in. And you're like the epitome of it, really, because of what you're doing and how you've been able to do this. It's really neat to see how it's come along for you. And to define to your business to folks that may not know what your business actually is.
Yeah, I mean, man, I'm always redefining that too. So what I do is I help people to be more productive, and I do that by helping them to connect their productivity to their purpose. The 2 main groups that I help with this, I help salespeople to sell by making selling an act of love and not an act of war. So that's one group, and the other group are these purpose-driven leaders that they're like, man, I want to create an organization that's, whether it's, hey, we're remote and now everything is scattered, or hey, help me to like build a team like I wake up and love to be with, instead of, I'm angry at, and and so like anything in those two realms are places where I function. And I can, just like you, I can do it from anywhere. I've learned a lot of things that you can't do and shouldn't do. Don't do this from a coffee shop unless you have something special, because it will drive people bonkers. But man, there's like relationship and the way we relate to people it's I wouldn't say it's changed. It's been augmented. Mm-hmm. And we can actually, if we can embrace the technology, now we can't let technology solve everything, but it's like, let it do its work. You still have to be a human in the midst of all of this. But how can you actually utilize this and be more of yourself? So I watch Joe Hancock on TikTok. Dude, I'm 46 years old. Do you know how many people I watch on TikTok? None. But I see Joe Hancock, and Joe Hancock is embracing this thing, and he's just being himself, and he's being happy, and he's being funny. And dude, you're like allowing yourself, like it's almost like media augmented who you really were, and it lets us all see the cheese, in a very good way.
Yeah, it's a fun tool to just let loose and get a point across. I mean, I kind of got into using it as more as a video editor to be able to get a point across about what I do. And I figured humor was the best route to go.
Come on, man. We all need that.
I mean,
coaching us on that. That's awesome.
I mean, to me, the best commercials, are funny. And when you watch national commercials, they get their point across in under 10 to 30 seconds. Yeah. And so I've learned a lot doing that. It's been fun. So I'm glad I got one fan out there.
Yeah. You have one. And yeah,
one. I'm an influencer now.
You've influenced me. Did you make me laugh? And if I laugh, you got me. You got my heart.
That's my whole goal with that, is to make people smile. And that's the thing I like about what I see what you do, is everything that you do. It's got such like you're saying, with purpose, it's got such a positive impact, and you've got such a positive outlook, and being able to bring that positive mindset to people. And because it's so easy to be negative nowadays, so especially the media loves to thrive on that, as we all know. And so having folks like you out there who have an influence on a large group of people, to be able to get them into a positive mindset and a positive message on a regular basis, I mean, that's huge. That's why I wanted to get you on here, because I think it's infectious. People who don't know you need to know you and need to follow you and see what you're doing, because it's inspiring, and it inspires me, the way when you first told me way back when you were going to do what you did about just launching out there and doing that, I was like, that's what I want to do, but I'm not brave enough yet to do that.
Yeah, you knew me before. I've met you just slightly before that all happened. Yeah.
Correct. And then all of a sudden you're like, I'm doing it. We're just going to go. We're to sell a house, and we're going to live here for 3 months, live here for 3 months. We've got it planned out. We got 8 kids, and I'm going to grow a business at the same time. And I was like, wow, he is way beyond me, way beyond. He's doing what I want to do, And so, you got to see everything, and now you're in the next steps of it. But the beauty of it is it shows that you can have the work-life balance, be able to grow. And like I said, you were ahead of the game, because now everybody else is trying to catch up to this virtual world. And but like you said, being a human, you still got to be human. Some people are like, I don't want to Zoom all the time. I don't want to do that all the time. And you don't have to do that all the time, but you need to understand that these tools allow you to be a human, let people see video emails and leveraging it, and just being yourself on camera. A lot of people are scared to have the camera pointing at them. And, but COVID has forced it on us. And so that's been helpful. And the one positive thing we can look at out of that, and I mean, it's amazing how you've traveled the whole country now and been able to meet people all over the country and grow your business that way. I mean, think about how you've been able to expand your business, because if you just write in Gainesville, your sphere of influence kind of stays there. But by you traveling around and leveraging the virtual tools, all your clients in Florida you still work with, but you were expanding to other people all across the country.
Yeah.
And now you've got that connections, and you're able to just talk to everybody all over the place. And I mean, it's,
oh man, yeah, the connections that have happened along the way have been amazing. And Joe, we didn't have any business doing it, and that's probably a big reason why we did that part of our journey, because it's like almost like a dare. Like, like, does it make any sense to get rid of everything and all your possessions fit into the back of 2 vehicles, including all of your entire family of 10? That doesn't make sense for someone to do, but we wanted to do it. And I think that what I see is a lot of us, and us included, we met, we had all of our kids there. We never left, like even a trip to the beach. We would only do it like twice a year. We live like, I don't know, Gainesville's what, an hour and a half from the beach?
hour and a half away. Yeah.
What's wrong? What was wrong with us? And so it was always the idea that we could get to that, and we'll just do it later. There was always this thing inside of us that wanted to go and experience these other things. But we were always, I guess, kind of kept into that cage of safety.
Yeah.
And I hope, by the way, I hope that COVID has kind of disrupted that cage of safety. But it's almost like when I think about the cage, it's like I remember I always would say, I just feel like I'm like we're this majestic creature, maybe like a lion, like roaring, roaming, roaring, hunting, majestic and beautiful. And instead of hunting and having that thrill, I felt like we had settled for almost like living in a zoo, and hey, at least we're safe and we get our piece of meat, at least we stay alive. But it was never like that place of where we were alive.
Yeah.
And when we first went on the journey, there were some weird things. So at that point we were, I'm an independent guy doing this thing on my own. At that point I was a part of a company that was foolish enough to say, well, I guess we don't care if you go wherever you want to go. And in the beginning parts of it, like money was very scarce. As a matter of fact, our children refer to the first month when we were in Rhode Island, they refer to that as the famine. And but in the midst of that, knowing, like, just being alive and knowing that you're alive, being like, and by the way, everything matters more when you're taking those risks. But I guess my hope is that for most of us, at least, that COVID shakes up what we think is normal. It should be accepted and gives us options. And the option is like, hey, you can actually probably get your work done in 25 hours a week now that you don't have the commute, or you can actually have your kids around, or you could homeschool, or you could, like right now I have 2 of my sons that are full-time working in my business, and paid contractors. They're not employees, paid contractors within my business. But everything becomes an option now. And when it is, the question is like, hey, what will you create? And I think, at least my hope is that from that, that others can be challenged to say, what do I want to create? If I could do anything, what would I do? And that's kind of what we did then. And that's what we continue to do now. And it's amazing, Joe, that you find out that you're not on your own. You find out that there are people along the way to help you. Last time I watched Star Wars, he didn't save the galaxy alone. He had Han Solo and Chewbacca. He had this. You find this cast of friends along the way that help you along the way, and it's almost like the universe itself kind of conspires to help you as well. So it's just like taking the step, I think, was the big part for us anyway.
That's true. I mean, think about it. That's a good analogy to say. It wasn't one person who won that. So everyone, you build your cast of characters to help you through what you do, and whatever you want to do, you can do if you put your mind to it. No matter what situation you're in, you're going to survive. Bottom line, if you want to, if you give up and just give up, then you give up. And just what you were able to do with that is a different level than most people would aspire to do, because they're scared of it, because some people would be, like you said, you're in the zoo, you're fine, I get my piece of meat, I'm good, and it's a little scary, but I really do. The positive aspect is people are learning now that you can get more done with less time, and because you're gaining back some time that you're not having to do anymore,
Yeah.
And,
now what? Right.
yeah. I mean, now you get to do these other things, and I'm seeing in my business, there's big conventions they usually have and all this other stuff, and they've gone to virtual conventions, and they're finding that they've become pretty effective. You don't have to fly across country to go to California to do this one thing. And the other thing is this company here, they did all the training virtual, or normally they fly everybody in, which is costly. And
Right.
And two, it was really good because I could do all my training and then immediately launch into business instead of do all my training. Now I got to pack all my bags, which is cool to meet everybody face to face and doing that.
Yeah.
There's still something to that, but effectively I was able to come right out of what we call branch manager university and immediately start pushing loans, so my effectively was able to start production immediately versus probably a few days of just kind of getting back home acclimated and going up and running. So, this virtual world is really awesome. And
it removes barriers, Joe.
It does. It totally removes barriers, and
you don't have to pack. You don't have to be somewhere at a certain time, or even I don't know how the Alachua Chamber's meeting now, but there is good cause to get together with real live people. There is.
Yep.
But in the in-between, can that be sometimes supplemented? And it's super easy. Now I wouldn't do a chamber meeting this way, but if you have a team getting together, I mean, how hard is it? You don't even have to be dressed from the waist down, and just show up and be present. And here you are on a Zoom call. Do we want that for everything? No. But it should be a steady part of our diet. There's no question. And you can still be you can be incredibly human.
You can get a lot done. I mean, on the chamber side, we're doing we've restructured, and we've got our committees now digital, and we're exploring options to see what we can do to get some events going again, maybe on a virtual level. What exploring, watching, different conventions and different things that are done digitally, and how that message is getting across. There could be ways to possibly do this. So we're kind of rebranding the chamber with the growth in Alachua has been insane. Alachua is really becoming a leader.
Yeah.
I mean, it's becoming a tech leader. It's becoming a biotech leader. Manufacturing is coming in. It's getting strong here. And the leadership in the area politically and with the city and the local businesses, I mean, we're seeing some serious moves, and you're going to see a lot more out of the Alachua Chamber as we have really energized and kind of in a rebranding mode right now to grow with Alachua, because it's that time, and you're going to see some big moves with the chamber.
And I can tell you this, being a 25-year resident of Alachua County. Most of it, always in Gainesville or Archer. But Alachua, the city of Alachua, was always especially once I was introduced into the world of business and business owners, it was always seen at the forefront, at least in my opinion. It was always, that's a place you wanted to live. That's a place you wanted to be in business. That's that's the better of all the options that are there by far.
It is the business minded community. As far as on the government side, they focus on we need to be business friendly, and we need to be community friendly. And so we have a walkable community, but still have the ability to make a really good living here. And selfishly on my side, I guess kind of say is I like living here and the ability and seeing the growth here that maybe my kids will, raise here and they'll be able to find a job here and they stay here with me. Because I want them around me and traveled away. But it's a community that we love because we know everybody, but at the same time, it's very diverse. And so it's a neat community. But at the same time, then I think I want to jump in the RV and do what Donnie's doing.
You can do both.
Go.
So you can do both. And that's kind of like the place where like we are not willing to be intentionally homeless again. And so it's like, having a place here, and like I think we're going to call St. Augustine home base. It's allowed us to be with our parents. My wife's dad is, things are happening with him, and just to be near my family as well, who lives in Marion County. But for us to be able to go for a few months, but it's always good to come home.
Yes.
And that was the one thing that we always were missing a little bit. And then frankly, going into another office for me every single time, you never knew what to expect. Because we would go into these places sight unseen, and the homes were beautiful and all of those things. But it's hard to work when you don't have I call it the space-time continuum. So it's hard to have good time management when you don't have a predictable space, which a lot of people are experiencing right now.
That's true. Structure is very important on time management. You've got to have really kind of a good structure to be able to maintain your ability to get things done and effectively. When you're in a constant motion, it does disrupt that. And it's hard for some people to, I know some folks that they need it very rigid, or they just can't function with it. You're probably kind of like me, really fluid. You can function, but you do like some structure. I need to have a guideline to it. But I can get fluid if I need to, but the more structure I have, the better you can get done, So that's a kind of a feedback on the remote traveling lifestyle. Is it is good to have that home base to hit back to when it's time, but having the freedom to move like that was amazing too. I wanted to hit on your podcasts. So how many do you have right now?
I have 3. So you can find a 4th. Actually, the first one, Joe, you were on my first one.
Yeah,
we were on Sales Heroes. That was fun.
That was a fun one. I hit the table too many times. So so it messed up the mic a little bit. So
it was fun. And by the way, I will say, podcasting was the beginning of a part of this adventure. And if I could give like 2 minutes of that, like one year we decided we would have Christmas, and our kids had never seen snow. Do you remember me telling you we always stayed in Gainesville?
Yeah.
8 kids, none of them had ever seen snow.
Wow.
And we said, hey, we can do Christmas, or we can go and we can go try to find snow. And everyone was like, snow. And so we took a trip to the very top of America, Upper Peninsula of Michigan, and went there in search of snow. Stayed in a cabin for a week with the kids. We saw a pile of snow in a convenience store parking lot. It was all dirty, and my kids had a snowball fight. It was disgusting. And but on the way home, the question that we had was, and this is kind of what provoked this, is like, I wonder if we could do this. Like, what if we did this more? What if we actually live this way? Is this possible? Now, at that point, I was working a corporate job there in the Gainesville area, a company called Naylor, great company. And I didn't have that freedom. And so in my mind, Joe, I was like, I know what I'll do. I just started listening to podcasts. That was a time frame where I just started reading a lot of books, and like my brain just started exploding, and it was a renaissance. I said, well, I'm going to start a podcast, and I'm going to become this just mega star, and I'm going to make a lot of money from this. And that's what's going to enable us to move all over the place and do these things. So that's what I did on the way home. As soon as we got home, the very next day, I bought a piece of $300 equipment. I still have it in one of my drawers that allows it records stuff digitally for podcasts, whether you're in person or you can plug it in your computer. And before I could deny myself that ability, I called the top 10 people that I knew that would be good on there. And you came from one of those top 10. Craig Wilburn was one of those people, and there was a bunch of other, several other people. And interesting enough, was that was how my next employer found me. So even though I never became the pod star that I thought I would be, which I'm thankful for, maybe that's coming soon. It was, and so I'm saying, like, people should have a podcast because it enabled it enabled me to talk to some really cool people, authors and influencers and all kinds of people that would never say, if I said, hey, you want to talk to me? They'd be like, no. Hey, you want to have a podcast session? You know, like, can I interview? Yes.
Yeah.
And you can do this. This is still wildly available and open right now. But I did that, and that's what actually people found me who were like-minded. And that's how like this job to actually go and do these things anywhere open. And so that was a long-winded answer, but just an encouragement. If anyone's thinking about it, just do it. It's not that hard. Just do it.
Yeah.
So Sales Heroes no longer exists. It's out there. You can still find Joe Hancock banging on the tables and spitting fire. It was amazing. Because, oh, by the way, I still remember do you remember there was a phrase you used and I loved it, is that you make lending like a cruise ship experience. I don't know if you still use it.
With you. Yeah, that's my goal in lending is I never forget being on a cruise ship and going, I just want it to be like a cruise ship. So it's just taken care of and you just get home, you know, and that I just want it to be as easy because there's so many moving parts in a mortgage and so many people involved. The borrower can get extremely stressed if things are not going the way they should. And it can be an absolute nightmare for some people. And so my goal always from the beginning is how can I make this the cruise ship experience for somebody? So they just kind of cruise through and they get it done.
And all of these years later, I still remember it. Isn't that amazing?
That's good. Yeah, I know. Actually, when you said that, I was like, well, you remember it.
Yeah.
So that's the goal. You know?
That's important. And so I have 3 that exist right now. The 2 that I'm really focusing on, one is Sell Anywhere, which I have a book, I have an online course, I have a coaching program, all of those things, but it's called Sell Anywhere. And that just helps people who are, whether by force or because they've chosen to maybe take an adventure like mine, which, or because COVID's forced them into a cave, basically how to sell without having an office. So it's providing your structure, it's crushing the numbers using technology and a process that I call love prospecting. So turning sales from an act of war to an act of love. So that's one podcast called Sell Anywhere. And I interview people on boats. I'm actually on boats and all these different places where people are selling from. And then, so that's kind of cool. And then the other one,
I like that,
is called Do Happy. And that's my attempt to just be kind of raw and open and help people connect with their purpose and to connect with their happy, because we're all better at what we're doing when we're living in our zone of happy. And so we maybe, just help push away some things that are in the way. And the goal is to fire people up. But that's a new one. It's only on YouTube right now. We'll put it on all the regular places as well. But it's just long form, this guy talking and, musing. And sometimes I bring people on. So those are so Do Happy and Sell Anywhere. That's where you'll find me.
And both of those are good. For Do Happy, people are going to be wanting, and then Sell Anywhere is really fitting in today's world for sure. And you lived it, and live it. I mean, that's the thing. Is like, it's one thing to talk about it and have theory, and I've read books about how to do this, and this is how you can be the digital this or digital that. But if you're living it, it's another aspect to it. It's like with my whole model on digital mortgages, I'm embracing that and living that as much as I can and finding every tool I can to help people have a digital mortgage experience, because they can. Mm-hmm. And also on a digital loan officer side, as a loan officer, you can be fully functional digital. And for you've been functioning digitally and selling anywhere. And so you've lived that. So I encourage people to definitely plug into that, because you know that. And the Do Happy, I mean, that just fits you. That's just perfect. That fits your,
that's the hope, man. I just, it's being able, like, if I can give back, that's all that is. And Joe, I don't have, like, when it comes to the Sell Anywhere, maybe I'm an expert. I've talked to, like, it's not just from me, but I've talked to a buttload of people. By the way, I just found out that's a real measurement unit, buttload. Look it up. So anyway, I've talked to a buttload of people, you know, in the process of that. But the do happy thing, that's just like kind of cutting open the journey and saying like, I'm just a fellow journeyman. This is like, I don't know, like the hope is that it eggs people on and encourages them to become the hero of their own story, maybe to stop waiting around for something to happen and step across the line when you see it. Because I believe that purpose and happiness can be reverse engineered and it can be simplified. And that's the goal anyway.
That's a good concept of it, that you can reverse engineer into it and look at how you can become that way. Because some people, I've heard people, you know, because I'm part of the Optimus Club, and part of our purpose is being positive and keeping positive. Because I tell people all the time, positive thinking is against nature in your head, because nature wants you to be negative to be able to survive, you know, in nature. And so as your instincts being negative is like, that can kill me, that can kill me, that can kill me. So I need to get away from it.
Right.
And so
I heard someone say, well, does positive thinking work all the time? And the guy said, well, maybe not, but negative thinking works 100% of the time negatively. So it's like,
correct.
it's a much better alternative. Even if I don't get 100 for 100 in the positive world, at least I get a good experience, even if it's negative, you know?
You train yourself to step back for a second. A lot of us in the Optimus Club will use the Optimus Creed. And if sometimes we see one of our fellow members online kind of falling into the negative track suddenly, you know, we'll just make a comment sometimes on their comments, say Optimus Creed. And it'll just like, oh yeah, nice. Get your mind back in gear and shift. And I've even seen some of our members share the creed with someone or a couple people who've been like arguing online. You know how that goes. And all of a sudden they change, you know, they just put it in the middle of the comments. Here, I just want you to read this. And all of a sudden it just suddenly changed their mindset, and they start to kind of come a little more together. So it's been an interesting thing.
Oh my gosh, that is hilarious. And I will say, like, so this is something that probably comes to light, right, in homes. Your job is to bring the fire, bring the heat, bring the love, you know, show up in that way. But if we're in a scenario where there's negativity, like you don't put a cucumber in pickle juice and expect it to still taste like a regular cucumber. It's going to get pickled.
Yeah.
Right? You're going to get flavored by what's around you. And being able, if for whatever reason you can't change the tide, you can't be the positive or whatever, no one said you had to stay wherever you're at. And there are a lot of things I've opted out of online or any of these places, just news. I feel like if you were trying to get me with I feel like fight or flight, you're trying to get me either angry or afraid, then you actually there's a stark line between what I believe is the opposite, which is love and purpose. And those things are those are competing for bandwidth. I only have so much bandwidth here, and I don't want to allow those to like, I'm not going to completely eliminate those maybe, but I want to mitigate that and put it into its corner and give myself more operating space for love and purpose and intentionality. So if I could be anyone I wanted to be, if I could do anything I wanted to do, what are those things? And at least doing something in a small level of saying, I'm going to be that guy, and I'm going to get away from maybe the influences that bring me over to this area. And that's a challenge when we're kind of like I know that Alachua County was a little bit more strict than other counties in Florida, but with the quarantine, like y'all were literally like, they put like sandbags outside your doors and wouldn't let you go out or anything like that, right?
they would get you. they were down on it, and some people, and I spoke to that a little bit on the messaging of it. You know, there's ways you can message, like we can get together and work together instead of mandating things. You know, when you mandate something on American, the first thing they're going to do is go, no, I'm not doing that.
We're going to fight you.
And yeah, they're going to fight you. And that's just the nature of us. We were founded that way. I mean, here's your tax. No, we're not doing that. So, you know, and so that's kind of our, and so there's messaging and again, one thing I've done and I have to repeatedly do on Facebook is block and hide certain posts, and so they don't continually show up. Because if one time you watch it, all of a sudden it starts to feed that, whether you're conservative or liberal or whatever you are, it's going to start feeding whatever it thinks you want to see, and start to, and like you said, the pickle juice thing, that's a great analogy, because what you're surrounding yourself with, you're going to start to absorb that. And so if you surround yourself with more positive mindset and see more of that, you will start to absorb that and think that way and identify the negativity when it starts hitting you, because you can identify it once you really get yourself into a positive mindset. Because some folks say, oh, I'm a positive person. And if you see some of the things they talk about, it's always going negative. They don't even realize it yet, because it's just part of it's what they're pickled of. And so you got to pull them out of that juice and put them in another jar. And so I mean, that's and it takes some time to readjust yourself. And that's just a real conversation with yourself and listening to what comes out of your mouth when you talk. When you're speaking and if you really pay attention and you want to make that change, and you hear what you're saying and what you're typing and what you're watching, you can identify all of a sudden, well, maybe I am in the wrong here, because
there is. I mean, I heard someone say recently, they commented on on one of the Do Happy posts. The guy said, he said, yeah, if someone tells you you're he used another word, but we'll just say jerk. So if you run into one jerk at the beginning of your day, you probably ran into a jerk. But if you ran into jerks all the way throughout your day, you were probably the jerk.
That's true. You're right. I mean, there comes a point when you kind of have to answer for your own self. Hold self accountability is important. Getting real with yourself. I love my wife. She is the best at making me be real to who I am. She is the most genuine, straightforward person you'll meet, and I love that. She has the inability to lie. She can't. It's impossible.
Yes, I love that.
If she ever just tried to surprise, it's hard. She can't even. I can see right through it. I love the genuine part of that. And she, way back in the past, I was being influenced online by politics, and I was getting negative and this and that. And she called me, said, this isn't you, what you're doing here. This isn't you. And I just take a real look at myself and step back, delete all the stuff that I was watching and influenced by, and just restructure my mindset. And ever since then, I've just been in the right mindset to be able to move forward. Work improved, everything improved. And because I wasn't
right? It's easy for me to put a line and say, well, you're on that side and I'm on this side. Mm-hmm. And I'm you're either Republican or Democrat. You're red or you're blue. You're Christian or atheist. You're this liberal or that's very easy in what we do is there's it's just a sense of tribalism that's going on there. But what happens is it allows you to think up to a point. Yes. And I just don't think everything is binary. I don't think that. I think that if you're only going to look at things this way, then you're closing yourself off. You're hedging for a fight. Yeah. And the reality is that in fights, and I'm not saying that there aren't fights that are worth. There are definitely fights worth fighting for, especially when it's concerning oppressed. When it's concerning truth, when it's concerning justice, I don't know, the American way, there are things worth fighting for. But I think most of us are growing numb to responding to that. That it's we know the media is stamping on that nerve all day long, every day. So by the way, turn it off. It's really easy.
It's an easy one. I've done it, and it. And when you do that, it's amazing when you ever do see it again, you kind of see right through it at that point.
Oh, man. And it's okay, I get it. And it's I hate when people say both sides as if there's only two sides. And it's what if there's the six-sided die? I don't know. There's multiple ways to look at something. And I'm not going to solve a binary one of two ways. It's just why restrict your solutions toward those things. But I do believe, though, Joe, that we can surround ourselves, even if we're stuck in a cave. We've got we all have this little thing right here, right? Smartphone. And what's coming across there? What are the distractions you're choosing? And I can choose the people I want to be like and listen to their books, listen to their podcasts. I can find people who are where I want to be. And there's people saying stuff all around. Joe Hancock is saying stuff that we need to be listening to, right? It's like there are people that you can allow to be in your friend circle, even if you never get to talk to them. There's like, it's like, get all of the supplements you can from what's out there, books, podcasts, reading, groups.
We have such a freedom of choice that you don't even realize. And I mean, and that's the thing, the freedom to do whatever we want. And that, circling back to your freedom to just say, I'm going to just go around the country and work remote, and freedom to do whatever you want and make that choice and commit to it. Commitment is the biggest piece of that. Is you got to commit to what you want to change yourself to do. If you know you need to improve in something, you got to commit to doing that, or you're not going to get there. And it's no one else's fault, really, in the bottom line, except for you. No matter what your circumstances are, it really falls down to you. I'm reading a book right now, Extreme Ownership.
Jocko Willink.
That book is really and when you read that book, it calls yourself out to certain things, because in the mortgage business, it's easy to blame processing did this, or underwriting did this, or closing did this, or a realtor this, or whatever.
Yes.
It's you. The bottom line, no matter what other outside things, it's coming down to how you're handling this situation, because whatever processing did or whatever underwriting did, what did you do that helped lead it into that? And so, you've got to take extreme ownership. And I like that book. It's an extremely good book.
Good book. Fun guy to listen to on his podcast. He makes a lot of sense. I think the one thing, and we all process things differently. Being able to own something in a way that, let's just say, like, I'm going to own this. There are two ways that I see people normally handling those. It's like, I'm either going to own it, and oh my gosh, so the reason we don't own it oftentimes, Joe, is because it means like, I suck at this. I feel so stupid. Everyone thinks I'm dumb. And so, like, if we own it, those are those things that get attached. And so we won't own it. That's one of the reasons we blame, right? Is so that we don't have to take on this. But the reality is if we can own it and maybe just turn like our filter a little bit, right? Put on the right lens so that you can see it properly. It's like, well, if I own everything, if I'm the problem, I'm also the solution. I work with a guy. He's a super inspiring guy. His name is John Wetmore. He went from, I don't know. He was an accountant making $30,000 a year, and now he is multi-millionaire doing some crazy things. And just talked to him yesterday, and he's like, "Yeah, I just bought a truck and gave it to some guy because he wanted to." It's like he's doing things like that.
Wow.
And that was his revelation. Is like, when I realized I was the problem, it was very freeing because I also realized that I was the solution. And being able to own those things and say, this is as my freedom. I don't have to work with these people or do this thing or do whatever. It's like, I want to. And being able to change the I have to an I want to, totally removes the blame. Because ultimately now it's like this is about you and your choice. But we all act like we're forced to do something or another, and we blame someone else rather than saying, "Nope, this is my act of freedom or love or whatever. This is why I do it." It's just owning the action.
Yeah.
Put on the right lens, right?
Yeah, you gotta own it, and that's the one thing that is hard for a lot of people. When we were talking earlier about having the real conversation with yourself to identify negativity and making real change. And so you gotta be real and honest with yourself, and that's part of the ownership part, is that you're honest with what's going on. Some things are out of your control, but in the bottom line, you still have to take responsibility for it and find a way around it and find a way to solve it. And so, and that's been an influential book for me. And I'm trying to do that.
Starting from a place that it can be solved instead of walking in like we feel this is, by the way, this is just so like your wife and I share this. Okay, I drank truth serum earlier, so here it comes. This is how we used to be with our finances, Joe, where we would be like, we would feel like when we looked at our finances together, my wife and I, that it was a place of defeat. And so we would avoid it. And when you avoid it, bad things happen, right? And then you're defeat. But once we started just being able to say, no, we have enough. We're looking at this like we can win. And even if it's something is negative on there, we know that we can solve it. There's an answer. And just even having that approach and starting from a place that there's an answer and that you're not defeated can sometimes be like what it takes to at least engage.
Yes.
And not hide from it.
And on the finances, I see that all the time with some folks that avoid certain things, and my job is putting people in debt, but I try to coach them how to get out of that debt and leveraging that debt to get something that's a large purchase that you probably wouldn't be able to save up for in the world. So the financing allows us to get these homes, but you need to structure yourself properly to be able to get out of that debt so that home doesn't, stress you out, and not have to be what we call house poor.
Do you find people in that corner? Do you find sometimes that people so we're talking brilliant people a lot of times live in that world, and it's like there's almost like this shame and this guilt where they're afraid to admit things. And then it comes do you find people like sheepish and maybe feel unnecessarily alone or ashamed or guilty, and you're like, oh no, this is an easy fix? Is that something you see in your world?
We'll find what I'll find is some folks that you would think would probably be more financially astute or not, and living in a situation that is just leveraged to the hilt. And see, I can't just tell someone I can't do a loan for you because you've got 7 cars and 4 houses and you want to buy another house, and every dollar you have literally goes straight out the door. And so if they can do it, they can do it. But what I try to do when I have a real conversation with them is advise them the best way. Like, you can qualify to here, but your best option is here. So if you can qualify for $450,000, but you really should buy a $200,000 house, because then you can buy a cheeseburger after you buy the house. So it's like, you want to have those kind of real conversations. But it's amazing if you tell someone, all right, you can buy 450, you can qualify there. You ask me your max, that's where you go. That just shifts them into, a lot of people will just shift right into, that's what I'm going to buy. But then I have other folks, I have an immigrant couple that were buying a house, and they were awesome because they were like, look, we just need what we need, and we want to stay within about 15% debt to income ratio, which is really low because we can qualify you all the way up to into the 50s really. But so they just want to stay there. So that put them in a purchase price range of around $120,000, but they could easily have qualified, frankly, for a $500,000 house. But they want to have cash flow. They saw that I really don't need much, and sometimes, like when we're in our RV, you kind of look around and you go, really, this is all the space I need.
We could just do this. Yeah.
So you kind of have to look at, what you really need versus what you think what you want, versus what you need. It's just a mindset. And when I see people get into the debt-free mindset and they get kind of into it, I love watching that because they just get on a mission. They kind of narrow down, they get out of debt, and all of a sudden they're wealthy. I mean, I had a guy that made $45,000 a year, and he was saying how broke he was. He felt he was broke. And I said, well, you have $400,000 in savings. You have no mortgage. You have no car payment. You have no credit card payments. You have food and utilities, and you don't even have cable. So you actually are wealthier than more people I see every day, and you can do whatever you want when you want because you're making $45,000 clear a year. That's your clear. That's what you're making every year. So don't consider yourself broke because you can do whatever you want within that limit, and you're not in debt. You're not strapped.
Come on.
You've got total freedom.
So it's interesting because, and so I delineate a little bit from that because, so it almost so I would say it this way. I would say that Joe Hancock just helped, not that person, but the previous person, the immigrants. There's a place of what do you want versus what do you really want? and helping people say, well, I'd really rather just be out of debt, or I'd really just rather have, like, as long as I can buy cheeseburgers or whatever it is. It's like, what do you really want? Because there's this massive flow of people that are like, this is what you should want, and this is a part of the commercialism. It's a part of our wonderful capitalist system. This is what you want. It's just like people feeding you what you want, force feeding you. And if you don't question that, you just go with that flow.
Yeah.
But when you have an advisor like yourself to say, well, it sounds like you're saying you want these things, and so this is the best choice if you want these things. In one of the things, when you look at the guy with the 45,000, it's like, to me, ultimately, I think all of us want freedom.
Yes.
And to me, freedom and riches isn't like, or I would say riches equals freedom, not the other way around. And it's, or maybe it is the other way around, but it's the choices that you get to make. Because I've talked to people and I work with people that make $1 million or whatever, but they're chained to what they call the golden handcuffs. And I'm like, I don't care what color they are. They're still handcuffs. Mm-hmm. What do you want? Well, I want this. Okay, no, what do you really want? And to me, being able to separate into the place of what you really want really advises people's decisions a whole lot better than what probably their first response is to what they think they want.
It's true. It's true. I mean, I see a friend of mine is Sherman Merrick's. He's a guy that.
Oh yeah, Mr. Debt Free. Yeah,
Mr. Free, and he's, he'll put posts out there and challenge people. Like you don't need that brand new car. And these things, and I'll see some comments where people are literally justifying why they need certain things that, frankly, you don't. And it's interesting. It's really interesting. But it's all mindset, And if that's truly what they want, then you live to each his own on that. But I love his message of the freedom that comes with that, And in my world, like I said, I put people in debt and I try to help them manage debt to be able to get out of debt is actually my ultimate goal. Mm-hmm. And to show them how you can, if you do this debt, you can get the other debt gone, and try to show how we can get you there. Mm-hmm. And it's not just about trying to close the highest loan we can get from you, because it just doesn't do you any good. And it's just fun to try to help people in mindset. But you see it all. I mean, it's how you choose to set this up, and it's how you end up. And if you set your mind right, you can end up right. And but there's so much influence out there. It's hard to put yourself in that. But that's part of the reason I do. These shows that I'm trying to do is bring people like yourself out that can help put the people in the right pickle juice, to be able to get them with the right stuff, and hopefully be inspired by what others have done, listen to what they say, plug into your podcast, read the books, be influenced, do those things, It's just, I really felt, and you were a good fit to have on here, because I just felt that you would bring a good positive message for folks to see. And I really want them to be able to find out about your podcast and plug into them, because I knew you were doing them. And I think it was important for folks to do that. Is there, business-wise, is there a way for them to contact you to have you help them out with certain things in your type of business?
Yeah, if they go to DonnieTuttle.com, that's my first name, last name, without the little, you see on my name, you see the little 2 dots by the D. That's just like, it's the emoji for smiling. Yeah. So my website doesn't have the emoji in the site. So it's just DonnieTuttle.com. If you go there, you'll get access to all of these things. You can connect with me on Facebook, LinkedIn, all of those things. But if you go there, you're going to be prompted to say, hey, do you want to, so there's 2 things that are going to pop up in your face. One of those is like, hey, we have this, the Sell Anywhere experience. Do you want to be a part of it? So if you want to engage me there, you can. If the purpose thing is more your jam, you just scroll down a little bit and it'll say, do your life on purpose. And you'll see some stuff that will hopefully tickle your fancy there. And love to connect with people, especially from the old home place of Alachua, Gainesville,
ground. Yeah. So I appreciate you. We're coming up onto the hour, so I know you're a busy guy, so I can see her probably talk to you for the next 5 hours, and we'll just the streamline going. But
we'll do it sometime. I'm retired. Yeah, we'll do it sometime.
Well, we're going to be in St. Augustine in November, so I'll hit you up if you're still around town.
Brilliant.
But yeah, I appreciate you coming on and sharing your insight, your wisdom, and your experiences. I mean, it's been a good thing. I imagine a lot of folks are going to get a lot out of it. Well, I'll share this. This will be on LinkedIn as well. It'll go on LinkedIn as soon as it hits the YouTube page on where I can actually copy and share it. So, but yeah, I appreciate you being on. And just if anyone wants to reach out, I encourage everybody to have a conversation with Donnie, because you'll come out inspired. You'll come out. He's a great guy to know, just to get to know him. Is, if anything, just to say, hey, because you'll be inspired. He's a good guy. So hang tight for a second there, and I'm going to go ahead and shut us down. And but you have any last comments you want to say to anybody?
I would say this. If you give me the podium, I'm always going to do it, man. Whatever it is that you have in your heart, there's a reason it's in your heart. It's the same reason that the salmon swims 700 miles upstream to get to where, to spawn eggs where it was spawned. It's the same reason that birds are able to migrate. Of course, what's the sandhill cranes, right? In your area, always coming back to the same place, migrating year after year. There's an image inside of your brain, and you were meant to go after that. And it's not as hard as you think it is. So I would spark you. I would encourage you that you have a purpose, and you already have the gifts and the talents that it takes to get there. Whether those gifts and talents are fully developed or not, you may need to develop those, but you have the gifts and talents that it takes to get there. And I would just say, live boldly. The massive men go to are living lives of quiet desperation and go to the grave with their song still in them. Don't be in the mass of men. That's it.
I like that. That's a good way to end it, guys. That's a good one to guys. I'm sure I'll be repeating that back when I watch this back through. So that's a good one, man. All right. Well, we're going to sign off to everybody. Hang tight on Chatweaver second offline. And so we will, we'll be back next week, probably Tuesday or Wednesday. We'll have another show up, and we'll be announcing our guest later today. So, all right, guys, thanks for joining us and watching the show. Talk to you soon.
See ya.